Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
I don't see myself in these such institutions, like IIMs or like big B schools. I don't know what will I feel there or how will I fit in there. In fact, that was one of my major questions.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Conversations in Quarantine. We get a lot of comments in our videos where students talk about that, why do you always bring overachievers who've always done well in their lives? It does not inspire us enough. So today we've got someone who's got a very unique story. So I'm really happy to be welcoming Alpesh Patel, who's not just an amazing story but a very good friend. Alpesh, welcome to Conversations in Quarantine. Alpesh, to begin with, what kind of a student were you in your undergrad, and tell us how your cat journey was?
Fortunately, I don't study anymore, but never it was my cup of tea. I joined NM during my graduation in Mumbai. It was a bit complicated for me because never I would have thought to do CSCS. MBA was something also that time was not as popular as CA and CS in NM. But definitely it was as popular as outside. And then
Right.
I joined classes along with some of my friends in NM, and that's where my journey of MBA, at least to pursue MBA, began. When I started preparing for CAT, fortunately I did get along with some subjects because maths is something it interests me a lot. DI was my favorite subject at that time. I started to take a lot of interests in the subject when I had to do it, and I started to enjoy it because I loved it. And the moment that you're talking about that, that actually came in a very funny way. Parag Chitle that time did select a few batch who he believed these guys or these girls are the people who definitely he believes that people will crack the cat. I was surprised to see myself in the same batch with a lot of studious people around, and well, some really big aspirational people. I started to be aspiring for stuff like that, and that was, I think, one of the moments, initial moments for me to say, नहीं यार मतलब ये I think I can do it, even though I did not believe in it when I started, but it's a possibility.
What was your journey with verbal as well, and specifically how your journey overall with mock cats was?
That time, in fact, I realized that verbal was not my strength. I went to the professor to ask him that what should I do to prepare better and to prepare well. Of course, I did not expect him to tell me that, okay, Alpesh, you take CAT next year. Sorry, this year you won't make it. But of course, that I understood his message, that let's not to be late on anything. And then I worked with him and some other professors also around verbal to do it.
There were people in your batch who suddenly took notice. There were IITians, then there were students from top colleges in the country who were there in your batch, and they suddenly took notice. अरे ये कौन बंदा है? ये इतना सारा कैसे स्कोर कर रहा है? Take me through that phase of your life.
During those times, I remember, BCom students were treated not very nicely. It was really the case at that time. I don't know if it is the case today also. In the selected batch of Parag Chitle, I know then most of them were IITians. At that time, I always used to ask that it is not nice to have this kind of feeling to say, "अरे तू BCom में यार," मतलब, you know what I mean. So this kind of feeling was not a good feeling at that time, and that even more pushed me, to be honest, to tell them that, guys, it's a possibility that even a BCom guy or a BCom girl can score well. And they used to really hurt bad when I scored more than them in quant and DI. So that's how it started. In fact, I did not know that there was a scoring pan India at that time. We used to go in, I think, some college under East where the centers were there. So yes, that's how I started my mock cats in terms of all India ranks. It was very beginning when I started to score under 10, under 20, and then got into under 10. And then thanks to Parag sir also, who pushed us a lot to start. Then we started to get into top 3, top 2, and then I had some AIR ones as well, and that was very good. During this was my second preparation, to be honest. Like I told you, that first time I was unable to take CAT because of the eligibility thing, but next time,
Right.
of course, I continued to fight for it. And then the second time when I started to take CAT, it was more. I started scoring AIR ones.
Now, Alpesh, take me to the cat day. What was the cat day like for you?
There is a lot of pressure in terms
Yeah.
of how you are going to perform in X, Y, the smallest possible strategy on what to go, what to take first. For me, officially, it was the first time to take the cat. I was very confident after the cat. I thought it went very well for me, honestly, and I was very very happy because I enjoyed a lot the process. After I realized that yes, it was thanks to the mocks preparation that we had done so rigorously. This was another mock. Of course, the result were going to decide a lot of things, but at least on that day, it was like a mock. You know that okay, this
Right.
it's over
Right.
now. Finally, after 1.5 year, 2 years of preparation, now this day is over, and I was happy at the end of it. As soon as the cat got over, of course there were a lot of people asking us how was it, how was etc, etc. Of course there was a big speculation to say that Alpesh, the answers that you have marked normally are right, and this is the speculated score. So there was a lot of things going around at that time before the cat results happening. I remember one day I went to Parag sir. I told Parag sir that I don't see myself in these such institutions, like IIMs or like big B schools, because I don't know what will I feel there or how will I fit in there. In fact, that was one of my major questions because all the engineers, all the IITians who have been doing crazy academically, it's impossible to fit in with along with them. And in a pressure like IIMs, we know. Of course, I have not been in one, but I'm sure I've heard stories. It's not so easy. He said, Alpesh, look, doesn't matter what people are thinking and doesn't matter what you are thinking. Let's not head ourselves ahead of times. uh, Prepare like you have started to prepare for cat. You did not know how it's going to pan out, and I don't want to be harsh to you, but before even starting to think how will you fit in IIM, I suggest at least you get a call first. I really understood his message very well. It was like loud and clear. So that was my journey before the CAT result. And then the CAT result came. I scored, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the exact number, I scored 67 percentile on my CAT result. Firstly, I thought it was impossible to score something like this. I checked my result like crazy, logging out and logging in again because I thought there was some mistake. I did not realize honestly what was my mistake or what went wrong at that just at that moment, because it was impossible to believe that I scored 67 percentile, if I'm not mistaken. I think I had a very stupid way, like everyone, all the CAT students. I'm sure they have their own way to take the test. It can be anything. It can be anything. Everyone has defined their own way. I had my way to solve the CAT on the question paper first before to put it on the OMR sheet. What I do is I mark all my answers on the question paper before to start to write on the OMR sheet. The answers on the question paper marked were loud and clear and were amazing. And that was my 19 and above percentile OMR sheet, my question paper. But when I started to mark on OMR sheet, I don't know when, how, what question number, because of course I don't remember any of it. But for sure, this was a mistake that I started to mark on the OMR sheet wrong markings. I don't know on what question number I started to mark wrong. I really don't know. But for sure, it would be really at the beginning of my OMR sheet, because 67 doesn't look like the last two answers marked wrong. Whatever went wrong in between. I'm sure it started well and it ended well in some questions, but for sure things went wrong in between.
I want to point out to students who are watching this. This is CAT 2007, I think. Yes, it was CAT 2007, and back then it used to be paper pencil. So you had a physical question paper. You look at the question and then you mark it on an OMR sheet with a pencil. You fill up the answer number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is that you think is the right answer on a different sheet, and that's where the mistake happened. But yeah, it's one of those stories that is just insane. Alpesh, immediately after that, in some time, you went to the UK. So I want you to tell me that journey now, that after CAT 2007, how is it that you then decided to not take CAT again and move to the UK? What was the thought process behind that?
During my days in NM, I always wanted to say that okay, I want to be an iBanker and I really want to go to work for some iBank. Doesn't matter if it is India or outside. It was not the biggest priority at that time. There were so many thoughts at that time that even if I had to take CAT one more year, let's say even if I had to crack the cat at that time, okay, though no one can assure me that for sure, not even myself I can assure. There is an assumption that I will start to prepare for the cat again at the same level that I did, and I put my energy this time. Then there was a question, will I crack the cat? Then was the question that how many B schools will call me for my GDPI? Those kind of questions definitely were in my mind, to say that there are a lot of assumptions now which everyone has to start to make for starting my career, and that was something that I was not a big fan on. And then there was of course the university thing that I did not want to stop, and so in fact during that time I started to pursue my international CFA as well. A big part of quant and everything was covered in our CAT preparation, but subjects like ethics and all, definitely they need your own time, to do it. And there were no classes at that point in time. I remember very vividly.
How did Sports Direct happen, Alpesh?
I moved in September, I remember 2008, in London. And during the first priority, like because of the expenses, of course, it was something that can I start to work part time. During that time, of course, there was a rule to have a limitation of 20 hours per week on an employment. The visa allowed on a student visa, that was the allowance that the government had. And I said, okay, even if it is 20 hours per week. Sports is something that I was always inclined during my school days or my college days. I have always been very sports person, and to work for a company like Sports Direct, who was into a sports retail, would have been interesting.
And then Alpesh, why the move back to India?
So I spent almost 4.5 years in London. Unfortunately, the part-time job stayed with me for a long time. Why India? In fact, something it was in my mind always to start a travel venture, because I am personally a very passionate person when it comes to travel and planning, etc., etc. I like to do it very well. So something that it was there in my mind since a long time. And then finally I found someone to work with during this period when I was in London. At a company in India, back in India, of course. And we said that okay, we will continue with this. And then there was my new turn to say that I will come back to India to work with this venture. And London was not something that I wanted to settle in permanently. Definitely, it was not in my mind since the time I had gone, honestly, because I always wanted to come back to India, to work in India, to start to have a small career in India, and not to settle in London. Never, it was my intention. The way it was going in the company and with the people I was working with, it was not the way I wanted to do it. So I was very happy, and I am very thankful that I took a decision very strongly to step out of it in the first 3 months itself.